The Ferrari F80 has literally just been announced, and one of the things that people don't like about it is its lack of a V12 engine. It costs around €3 million, and today I'm going to talk to you about a bunch of V12 engine cars that cost less than £60,000. All very exotic. If you like this video, do hit the like button. 1,000 likes for the same video again at the cheapest V12s I can possibly find. And if you're one of the 77% of people that aren't subscribed watching right now, do hit subscribe. Let's get straight into it. The Jaguar E-Type might be one of the single most iconic looking cars ever to come out of the UK. For the slightly older generations, this was the achievable dream car, and for a time they were actually quite cheap second hand relative to other exotics before growing in price as the generation that loved them got a bit older and had a bit more money to buy their dream cars. Then as that generation kinda either owned them or didn't, prices got pretty stagnant and haven't hit the heady heights that you might expect. Check out forums, you'll see loads of owners talking about how prices have stayed the same or eased since the late 2010s and early 2020s. Now the V12 E-Type starts at around 40k for a bit of a project, making it the joint cheapest car on the list, and at our 60k limit we're looking at a 1972 example with around 60,000 miles on the clock. For that kind of money, we're getting yourself a 5.3 litre V12 engine, making 272 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 6.4 seconds, which for its age really isn't bad at all. The designer was a man named Malcolm Sayer, responsible for multiple Jaguar race cars, some of which are worth a fortune like the C-Type and D-Type. Both of those cars have similar design language to the E-Type, this ultra fluid feel based on racing aerodynamics at the time, and in fact the E-Type was based on the D-Type racing car. For that reason it is rumoured that Enzo Ferrari himself called it the most beautiful car ever made, but that hasn't actually been confirmed or denied. Obviously, as these are quite old now, with multiple restoration projects being built, there are amazing buyer's guides out there covering every last inch that you should check if you're after one. To summarise, the V12 is known to be pretty durable but is known to overheat. Corrosion is the biggest issue, which has been the death of many E-Types as they weren't really built to last this long without being restored, and the suspension is known to be beautiful but complex if it goes wrong. I honestly think the shape of the E31 8 Series is one of the most beautiful shapes BMW have ever made. It was designed by Klaus Kapitza, a man who worked in Formula 2 and Formula 1 for a while, but was most known for his role as a designer at both BMW and Porsche, with the 8 Series being his main car. Funnily enough, despite never working for them, his love is for Alfa Romeo, and he's even written a book and made a calendar about the brand. A man after my own heart for sure. But I digress. The 850 CSI was the most aggressive 8 Series car you could buy, as BMW never built the M8 due to low sales across the range. So this is effectively the baby M8, and just 1,510 were made with that legendary CSI badge too. They definitely deserve some respect, plus on the engine cover you'll actually find the M logo to let you know exactly who made this thing so quick. That engine is a 5.6 litre V12 block, making 380 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.8 seconds. Not bad for a grand touring sports car from the mid-90s. What's cool about this not being an M car, which took a bunch of M parts and innovations to make it, is that it almost flies under the radar. It's not quite as shouty as an E30 M3 for example, but that shape is just so striking and the look so period, with that lovely pillarless window design, that it's hard today to not accept this as an exotic. You can get the smaller engined V12 non-CSIs starting at around 16k, but to get a CSI right now, the cheapest I could find was this for £55,000 from 1994. That V12 is actually surprisingly simple, outside of BMW's infamous Vanos system, which can cause trouble. Throttle bodies are known to fail, and oil leaks are known too. The worst thing that can happen is if this car sits still for a long time, the two fuel pumps which are literally in the fuel tank can go wrong, and the bracket that holds them in place can perish. With the F80 literally being revealed the day that I'm writing this script, it's crazy how many people aren't loving the fact that it's a V6 as a flagship Ferrari hypercar. Everyone wants the V12, so why not just save yourself the €3 million and get a Ferrari 456 instead? The other thing I've seen complaints about too is the lack of Pininfarina working with Ferrari to design it, and again, the 456 was Pininfarina designed by the same man responsible for the Ferrari F40, Testarossa and F50. I mean, that's a serious set of cars to be responsible for, but I'll be honest, aesthetically, engine wise and all the rest, I would have the F80 over a 456. 456, let's be real. So just remember, just because Pininfarina are involved and the Ferrari has a V12, that doesn't do the whole job. That's not to say that the 456 isn't a lovely car though, by the way, as the predecessor to the 612 FF and GTC4 Lusso, changing the boxier design of the 412 that preceded it and making a 2+2 coupe style Grand Tourer with more fluid looks. That engine is a 5.5 litre V12 putting out 442 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.4 seconds, again pretty decent for a mid-90s car that's built for cruising around the continent in style, comfort and beautiful sounds. You also get an amazing gated manual gearbox in GT models and pop-up headlights too. It's a proper period car with a timeless Ferrari interior, even if the external aesthetics are a bit Marmite. This is the joint cheapest car on the list, starting around £40,000 for a 1996 model that's done around 30,000 miles, and they're pretty hard to come by regardless. Throttle cables are known to stretch, leaks were incredibly common on early examples from pretty much everywhere, fuel pump mounts have caused issues, and the manual transmission's oil cooler is worth checking over too. The suspension has also been known to have issues with shocks leaking over time, and I'm not sure if they still do, but Bilstein used to offer a pretty cheap fix for them. You are buying a classic Ferrari though, expect to spend classic Ferrari maintenance money. So I hope you guys are enjoying this video. If you are, then do hit the like button and subscribe as well if you're new. And let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on the new Ferrari F80. I'd love to hear them. One of the single best sounding Aston Martins of all time, in my opinion, is this, the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. I've spoken many times before about the V8 version of this car, but the V12 took it to a different level. What's crazy is that V8 has sat at around the 20 to 30k mark for a really long time, offering a very cheap entry point into exotic car ownership, but the V12 has held up significantly higher on price as the most expensive car on this list, starting at around £50,000, with 60k just about getting you a 2010 model with 45,000 miles on the clock. You could of course get a significantly cheaper V12 engine in the DB9, another beautiful Aston, and a similarly priced, more modern V12 with a couple of turbochargers attached in the DB11, but for me this V12 Vantage might be a Goldilocks car as a future classic. Not particularly common and kinda in no man's land in the Aston lineup, it's just a special car. That engine is a 5.9 litre V12 to be exact, making 510 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.1 seconds, and as I mentioned, with one of the most orchestral sounds you'll hear on this list. The V12 arrived in 2009 with the updated Vantage, having been previewed back in 2007 as the V12 Vantage RS. It received acclaim across the motoring world, with Jeremy Clarkson even calling it wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It also came as a roadster, though you're unlikely to find one within our price range, but what an opportunity, a V12 that sounds that good with the roof down. This V12 hasn't typically caused owners too much trouble outside of an unlucky few that suffered oil starvation, leading to catastrophic failure. That's absolutely not a common problem though, you'll be glad to hear. And then outside of paint cracking and expensive gearbox or clutch replacement, these have incredibly been pretty reliable. Just watch out for the ongoing maintenance costs, as owners note the cheapest services coming in at around the £800 mark, with prices increasing from there. Taking the top spot is absolutely an if you know car. The R230 SL generation is a super common car. I don't think they'll turn heads of too many car enthusiasts in general, but they're definitely a poor man's entry point into something a touch more exotic and fun, with some interesting engine options. The SL65 AMG, however, is not like that. It's an absolute monster, and a wildly rare one at that, which gave me goosebumps the first time I saw and heard one driving along. Aesthetically, it's not a million miles away from a non-AMG SL car, with the main difference over the rest of the lineup being those air intakes on the front by the wheels. They also have a nice set of original split alloys, typically in two-tone, and the telltale V12 bi-turbo badge on the sides. That's why I say you have to know about one of these to really appreciate them. They come with the only non-naturally aspirated engine on this list, a 6-litre twin-turbo V12 block that makes 603 brake horsepower, taking to 60 in 4.1 seconds, which is pretty serious for a Grand Tourer, matching the Aston, and that engine is loosely related to the one you'll find in the Pagani Zonda. The thing is, as this car is a little bit more under the radar and a bit of an old Merc, I would say it's from the wrong era of Mercedes interiors. It's not the most pretty car inside, but again, that's just my opinion. They are impossible to come by, but if you do, they'll start at just under 50k, with 60k getting a 2004 example with around 40,000 miles on the clock. The mid-2000s was Mercedes' low point when it comes to reliability, but luckily for the SL65, not many people have actually owned them or put enough miles on them to really feel its wrath. There is a known problem with the crankshaft draft seal, but broadly there isn't much verbiage on its reliability. The SL600 also came with a V12 though, and was known to have expensive coils to replace, and engine mounts were also an issue. The roofs on the R230 SL have also caused some problems, and hopefully if you're getting an SL65 you're getting a well-loved, well-maintained car. So there you have it, 5 V12s for under 60k. I hope you enjoyed. Do hit like and subscribe if you did. Huge thanks for watching, to the patrons for their support, and go click here for a bunch of other cheap exotic cars.